You ever find yourself knocking on a door so hard that your knuckles hurt? Begging, pleading, waiting, just hoping that if you push hard enough, the opportunity will come? But what if I told you that some doors stay locked for a reason? See, we get so caught up in what's not happening that we forget who's in control. We forget that God is not in the business of ignoring prayers. He's in the business of aligning purpose. That means when a door doesn't open, it's because He's preparing something better. Some of us are crying over doors that God Himself shut, not to hurt us, but to protect us. That job you didn't get, that relationship that didn't work, that opportunity that slipped through your fingers, if you knew what God was saving you from, you would have shouted instead of wept. God is not moved by our panic. He's moved by our faith. So instead of worrying, start preparing. The right door requires the right version of you. The door is not waiting on your frustration. It's waiting on your growth. I need you to hear me today. God's yes is more powerful than any no you've ever received. When God opens a door, no man, no mistake, no delay, nothing can shut it. Don't worry about the door. Don't lose sleep over the timing. Don't let fear make you doubt what God has already promised. Keep walking, keep trusting, and when the right door opens, step through it like you always knew it was yours, because it is. We live in a world where everything moves fast. We want quick answers, instant results, and overnight success. If something takes too long, we start wondering if it was ever meant to be. But let me tell you something. God doesn't operate on your schedule. His timing is not your timing. There are moments when we pray for something, and when it doesn't happen right away, we start doubting. We start thinking, maybe God forgot about me. Maybe I wasn't good enough. Maybe it's just not meant for me. But the truth is, delay does not mean denial. Just because something isn't happening right now doesn't mean it won't happen at all. Think about a seed. When you plant it in the ground, you don't see anything for a while. You water it, give it sunlight, and wait. But under the surface, something powerful is happening. The roots are growing deep before the plant ever breaks through the soil. That's how God works. He's building your foundation before He lets you rise. Because if you rise too soon, without the strength, without the character, without the faith, you won't be able to handle the blessing. God is strategic. He knows the right time, the right place, and the right season for everything in your life. If He gave you everything you wanted the moment you asked, you wouldn't even know how to handle it. Some of us have been frustrated with God because we think He's late, but really He's just making sure we're ready. Look at the story of Joseph in the Bible. He had dreams of greatness, but before he could step into his purpose, he was betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and locked in prison. It took years before he stepped into his destiny. But when the time was right, God elevated him to a position of power he could have never imagined. That's how God moves. It might feel slow, it might feel unfair, and it might even feel painful. But when His time comes, everything will make sense. I want you to stop stressing over the when. Stop questioning why it hasn't happened yet. If God promised it, He will do it. But He will do it when the time is right, not when you think it's right. Because the truth is, His timing is always perfect. We don't like closed doors. They make us feel rejected, disappointed, and sometimes even forgotten. When we pray for an opportunity and it doesn't happen, we start questioning everything, our abilities, our worth, and even God's love for us. But what if I told you that closed doors are not punishments? They are protections. See, we only see life from where we stand, but God sees the whole picture. He sees the heartbreak on the other side of that relationship you begged Him to save. He sees the stress, the betrayal, the failure that would have come with the job you wanted so badly. And because He loves you, He shuts the door. You may not understand it in the moment, but trust me, every closed door is working in your favor. Sometimes a no is God's way of saying not yet. Some of us are frustrated because we feel like we're doing everything right, but nothing is happening. We pray, we work hard, we put ourselves out there, but the doors just won't open. But have you ever considered that maybe it's not a no? Maybe it's just a not yet. God closes doors not just to protect you, but to prepare you. If He gave you everything you wanted when you wanted it, you wouldn't be ready for it. A blessing given too soon can become a burden. So instead of fighting against the closed door, use the waiting season to grow, get stronger, get wiser, get closer to God, so that when the right door opens, you'll be ready to walk through it. Closed doors redirect you to the right path. Imagine if every door in your life had opened. Imagine if every relationship you wanted worked out. Imagine if you got every job you applied for. Would you really be where you are today? Would you have grown the way you needed to? Sometimes closed doors are God's way of redirecting you to the place you actually belong. Think about it. How many times have you looked back and said, thank God that didn't work out? Maybe you were heartbroken over a breakup, only to later realize that person wasn't right for you. Maybe you were devastated when you lost an opportunity, only to later find something even better. What's meant for you will always find you, no matter how many doors close. I want you to remember this. What God has for you, no one can take away. If the door closed, it's because that wasn't your door. The right door will open at the right time, and when it does, you'll understand why everything had to happen the way it did. Don't waste time crying over a door that God already locked. Trust that He is guiding you. Trust that He is protecting you. And trust that when the right door opens, you will walk through it with confidence, knowing it was meant just for you. Your preparation season matters. We live in a world that glorifies the destination, but rarely talks about the preparation. Everyone wants the success, the breakthrough, the answered prayer, but very few want to go through the process that leads to it. But let me tell you something. If you skip the preparation, you won't be ready for the promise. God is not going to put you in a position that your character, discipline, and mindset are not prepared to handle. A blessing that comes before you're ready can feel like a curse. That's why your preparation season matters. The hidden work no one sees. You see, preparation happens in the background, away from the spotlight, when no one is watching. It's in those moments when you're praying for something big, but God is telling you to be faithful over the small. It's in those seasons when you're asking, why is nothing happening for me? But God is saying, I'm building you first. Think about David in the Bible. Before he ever became king, before he ever faced Goliath, before anyone knew his name, he was just a shepherd. He was out in the fields tending to sheep, fighting off lions and bears. Nobody saw his preparation. Nobody was clapping for him. But God was watching, because He knew that the same David who was faithful in the field would be faithful on the throne. Some of you are frustrated because you feel hidden, overlooked, or stuck. But let me tell you, you are not stuck. You are being prepared. God is working on you in the quiet so that when the time comes, you'll be ready. If you're not ready, the blessing won't last. Have you ever seen someone get a blessing too soon and lose it just as fast? A person wins the lottery, but because they never learned how to manage money, they end up broke again. A person rushes into a relationship before healing, and the same wounds from the past destroy something that could have been good. That's what happens when you're not prepared. God doesn't want to just give you the blessing. He wants you to sustain it. That's why the preparation season is so important. It's in this season that you learn discipline, patience, humility, and wisdom. It's in this season that God shapes you into the person who can handle what you've been praying for. What you do in the waiting season determines your next level. Some people waste their waiting season complaining. They get bitter, discouraged, and start doubting God. But others use that season to grow. They develop their skills, strengthen their faith, and build their character. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't just talent, it's preparation. If you're in a season of waiting, don't waste it. Learn everything you can. Work on yourself. Stay faithful, even when no one is watching. Because when the door finally opens, you want to be able to walk through it confidently, knowing you're ready. God is preparing you for something bigger. You may not see it now, but God is preparing you for something greater than you can imagine. The lessons, the struggles, the closed doors. It's all part of the process. Trust the preparation, because when the time is right and God says now, nothing can stop what He has for you. Instead of asking, when will it happen? Start asking, how can I prepare? Because when preparation meets opportunity, you won't just step into your blessing, you'll be able to keep it. Life has a way of throwing challenges at us. Unexpected situations, heartbreaks, financial struggles, health issues, and moments of deep uncertainty. When things don't go as planned, fear creeps in. It whispers doubts in our ears, tells us we're not strong enough, not qualified enough, not worthy enough. But let me remind you of something. Fear is a liar. Fear will keep you stuck in places you were never meant to stay. It will paralyze you, make you settle for less than what God has for you, and convince you that your past mistakes define your future. But here's the truth. Fear has no power when you choose faith. Faith and fear cannot exist in the same space. You have to decide which one will lead your life. Will you listen to the voice of fear that tells you to quit, or will you listen to the voice of faith that tells you to keep going? Fear makes you focus on the problem. Faith focuses on the promise. Fear magnifies your problems. It makes the obstacles seem bigger than they are. When you focus on fear, you become blind to the fact that God is already working behind the scenes. But faith shifts your focus from the problem to the promise. Think about the story of Peter walking on water. As long as he kept his eyes on Jesus, he did the impossible. But the moment he focused on the storm, fear took over and he started sinking. That's exactly what happens in life. When we let fear take control, we drown in our doubts. But when we walk in faith, we step into the supernatural. God never promised a life without storms, but he did promise that he would be with us in every storm. So don't let fear convince you that the situation is hopeless. God is still in control. Fear holds you back. Faith pushes you forward. Fear tells you to play it safe. It keeps you from taking risks, from chasing your dreams, from stepping out of your comfort zone. But faith pushes you into purpose. It challenges you to believe in things you can't see yet. Some of the greatest blessings in life require bold faith. That job you're afraid to apply for, go for it. That dream you keep putting off, start working on it. That opportunity that scares you because you don't feel ready, take the step anyway. The enemy uses fear to block your destiny, but God has given you faith to overcome every obstacle. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. Fear tells you to give up. Faith tells you to keep going. There are moments in life when giving up seems like the easiest option. When you've prayed and nothing changes. When you've worked hard and still don't see results. When doors keep closing and you start questioning if you even have a purpose. But hear me when I say this. Faith is believing even when you don't see it yet. Faith is trusting that every delay is for a reason. Faith is understanding that just because something isn't happening now doesn't mean it never will. God is not ignoring you. He has not forgotten you. He's just building you for something bigger than what you're asking for. Keep going, even when it's hard, even when fear tries to convince you to quit, because the breakthrough you've been waiting for could be just around the corner. Fear is temporary. Faith is eternal. Fear is based on circumstances. It changes depending on what's happening in your life. But faith is anchored in God's promises, and his word never changes. The same God who parted the Red Sea, who made the walls of Jericho fall, who healed the sick and raised the dead, that same God is with you right now. And if he did it before, he will do it again. Don't let fear control your life. Choose faith. Choose to believe that God is working even when you can't see it. Choose to trust that the closed doors are leading you to something greater. Choose to walk in confidence, knowing that if God is for you, nothing can stand against you. Because at the end of the day, fear may roar, but faith always wins. In a world that constantly tells you to compare yourself to others, to measure your success based on someone else's timeline, let me remind you of something powerful. Your journey is yours alone. It will not look like anyone else's, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. Too often we fall into the trap of looking at someone else's life and thinking, why am I not there yet? Why don't I have what they have? Why is their path easier than mine? But let me tell you, comparison is the thief of joy. When you spend too much time focusing on someone else's success, you rob yourself of the ability to appreciate your own growth. You were not created to walk someone else's path. You were created for your own unique journey. Your timing is different for a reason. One of the biggest struggles people face is feeling like they are behind in life. Maybe you're watching your friends get married, buy houses, start businesses, or achieve things that you're still working towards. And in those moments, doubt creeps in. You start wondering if you're failing, if you'll ever catch up, if you somehow missed your chance. But let me remind you, just because something hasn't happened for you yet, doesn't mean it never will. Your timing is different because your purpose is different. Think about this. A flower does not bloom at the same time as the tree beside it. The sun doesn't rise at the same time in every part of the world. Everything in nature has its own timing. So why do we think we're supposed to be on the same timeline as everyone else? God's plan for you is not delayed. It's not off track. It's happening exactly as it should. So don't rush the process. What's meant for you will come at the right time. And when it does, it will be worth the wait. Your challenges are preparing you for your purpose. Have you ever wondered why your life seems harder than someone else's? Why you've had to fight battles that others didn't? Why the road you're walking feels lonely, difficult, or unfair? It's because your challenges are shaping you. Some people's journeys are smooth because their purpose requires it. Others have to endure hardships because they are being built for something greater. The bigger the purpose, the bigger the preparation. You're not going through struggles just to suffer. You're being strengthened, refined, and prepared for what's coming next. Every setback, every closed door, every disappointment is making you wiser, stronger, and more capable of handling the blessings that are on their way. Instead of resenting your struggles, start embracing them. They are proof that you're being molded into the person you need to be. Your journey is not a competition. Social media has made it easier than ever to compare ourselves to others. We see highlight reels of people's lives, their successes, their achievements, their perfect moments, and we start feeling inadequate. But what you don't see is their behind the scenes. You don't see the failures, the tears, the nights they wanted to quit. You're comparing your real life to their edited version. Life is not a race. You are not competing with anyone. The only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday. Instead of feeling envious of someone else's success, celebrate it. Because if God is blessing them, that means he's still in the business of blessing people. And if he did it for them, he can do it for you too. Stay focused on your path. Imagine running a race while constantly looking to the side to see what the other runners are doing. What happens? You slow down, you lose focus, you might even trip and fall. That's what happens when you spend too much time watching other people's lives. You lose sight of your own path. God has a specific plan for you, and it has nothing to do with what someone else is doing. Stay in your lane. Trust the timing. Trust the process. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be. Because one day you're going to look back and realize every twist, every turn, every delay, every detour led you exactly where you were meant to be. How many times in life have you been told no? No to the job you prayed for. No to the relationship you thought would last. No to the opportunity you worked so hard to achieve. No to something you were convinced was meant for you. When people reject you, when doors close in your face, when it feels like the world is shutting you out, it's easy to believe that you've hit a dead end. But let me tell you, man's no has no power over God's yes. People may overlook you, but that doesn't mean you're not chosen. People may doubt you, but that doesn't mean you're not capable. People may try to block your success, but that doesn't mean your destiny is in their hands. Man's no is temporary. God's yes is eternal. People will put limits on you. They will tell you what you can and cannot do based on their own understanding. They will try to define your worth based on their opinions. They will reject you based on their personal judgments. But man's rejection is not the final answer. People don't have the authority to close doors that God has already opened. No human decision can override God's plan. No worldly limitation can stand against divine purpose. When God says yes, it doesn't matter how many people say no. It doesn't matter if they doubt you. It doesn't matter if they try to stop you. It doesn't matter if they think you're unqualified. If God has called you to something, he will make a way, whether people like it or not. Rejection is often redirection. Sometimes the very thing we're upset about losing is the thing God was protecting us from. We cry over closed doors, not realizing that God shut them for a reason. Have you ever wanted something so badly, only to look back later and say, thank God that didn't work out? That relationship you thought was the one, but ended up being toxic? That job you wanted, but later found out was full of problems? That opportunity you lost, only to have something better come along? What you see as rejection, God sees as redirect. He is guiding you towards something greater, even when it doesn't feel like it. What looks like a disappointment today might be the setup for your breakthrough tomorrow. People can delay you, but they can't deny you. People may try to block your blessings. They may talk about you, overlook you, sabotage you, or make it difficult for you to move forward. But they cannot stop what God has already ordained. Think about Joseph in the Bible. His own brothers sold him into slavery, thinking they had destroyed his future. But what they didn't realize was that God was using their betrayal to position Joseph for something greater. What looked like a setback was actually a setup for his elevation. Man can try to delay your blessings, but they cannot deny them. What is meant for you will always find its way to you. If God has spoken it over your life, it doesn't matter who tries to stand in your way. It will come to pass. Your promotion comes from God, not man. Too often we put our hope in people. We think if they approve of me, if they give me a chance, if they recognize my talent, then I'll succeed. But the truth is, your promotion doesn't come from man. It comes from God. God doesn't need a recommendation letter to bless you. He doesn't need someone else's permission to open a door for you. He doesn't need human validation to elevate you. If he has chosen you, that's all that matters. Think about David. He was overlooked by his own family when the prophet came looking for the next king. But what happened? God still chose him. Even when others didn't see his potential, God did. And when it was time, no one could stop what God had already decided. God's yes is more powerful than any obstacle. It doesn't matter what stands in your way. It doesn't matter if you don't have the qualifications. It doesn't matter if people tell you it's impossible. If God has said yes to your destiny, nothing and no one can stop it. Doors that were once locked will suddenly open. Opportunities you never expected will appear. Ways will be made where there were none. God's yes has the power to override every obstacle in your path. Every rejection, every closed door, every disappointment is not the end of your story. It is simply part of God's plan to position you for something greater. When people say no, when circumstances seem against you, when you feel like you're being held back, remember this: God's yes will always overpower man's no. You are not at the mercy of human decisions. Your destiny is not controlled by opinions, by setbacks, or by the limitations others place on you. What God has planned for you cannot be stopped, delayed, or taken away by anyone. Stop worrying about who doesn't approve of you. Stop chasing after doors that God has already closed. Stop letting rejection make you feel like you are not enough. You are more than enough. And you are exactly where you need to be. Trust the process, trust God's timing, and most importantly, trust that His yes will always be stronger than any no you will ever face.